Impression the game you get out with what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well, God, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tommaso Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Hello, and you're very welcome to episode 324 of Treaty Talk. It is once again Tom Clancy in the hot seat and joined as always by Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star newspapers. Matt, is that the Sun hat on, the more championship hat? Is that where you're headed with that hat now for this?
No, it's actually the podcast hat.
The podcast hat. Okay, right.
Talk of sunshine. It's absolutely majestic outside today.
Championship weather.
Has been for the last nearly 2 weeks, and people have often said they stopped on the road there to me and say, "What a beautiful place you're living," and it is beautiful. But we're in among the hills and what have you. But I always say to them, "Come back in November."
Right, and the
bit
of white.
Perhaps come back in January. You might get a different perspective of it. But absolutely, on days like today, I can just go 100 metres over the road and I can see the foot of the Galties right to the top.
Yeah. And I suppose it depends. We'll come to it now in the next few weeks, Matt. It depends which side of the Galties you're on, but I think there'll be plenty of interest in the small ball game from all sides of the Galties now as we come into the next few weeks.
It's reputed, Tom, that the highest peak of the Galties is in County Limerick.
Right. Okay. And are Limerick hurlers going to climb the peak again?
Well, that's the big question. We'd be hopeful. We'll talk more about that and on next week, I'm sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I suppose to let listeners know, we will have a multiple All-Ireland winner joining us next week, among a Tipperary guest who will be revealed in due course. So we're looking forward to, I suppose, a big look at the Munster Hurling Championship next week's podcast. But I suppose matters arising from last weekend, Matt, and we'll look at, I suppose, the more immediate action in both hurling football, and we'll be looking ahead at some Camogie action later in the piece as well. We'll start with football, I think, Matt, and a trip to the Gaelic grounds. Limerick footballers, I suppose, not too frequent venue for them in recent times. Munster quarter-final, you and I were discussing even before the game. There wasn't much of a prize for beating Cork. Now, unfortunately, it didn't work out for Limerick, but I think maybe they'll be frustrated that they didn't get a real, competitive 60-70 minutes. The game felt a little bit over at halftime because Limerick were down to 14 and Cork were firmly in the lead at that point. And a disappointing, I suppose, result in this Munster Championship quarter-final.
Yeah, it was a disappointing result, Tom, and you see what was to go wrong, sort of all went wrong together. Like you had the sending off, and then there was kicking of a couple of 2-pointers, like which when you're under pressure, they can really nail you. I personally thought the sending off was harsh, I have to say. The referee had no choice the second time but to give a yellow. But it comes down to this thing again, the first yellow, and now that you're on the referee's ladder, Tom, you probably agree with me. I thought the first one was a tight call, and but then you see, if you get a yellow card, you're giving the referee very, very little latitude if you transgress or commit another infraction of any description. So I thought it was, and I was very, very sorry for Sean Clancy, and Sean was devastated over it, and he made an impact while he was on, Tom.
Yeah.
He made quite an impact while he was on, and for Jimmy Lee and Limerick, and going ahead into the Tarleton Cup, like Sean Clancy, like is one that you can say has been discovered, and has transitioned successfully from being a successful club footballer into an inter-county footballer. And I'm not entirely surprised, Tom, because I thought over the last 2 years that he showed demonstrable improvement over the last 2 years with Celtic Gales and became a more and more influential figure in the last 2 years. So his call up to the Limerick squad wasn't a surprise to me, and I certainly thought that Sean would give it a right good go. But that said, like I suppose, Tom, at the end of the day, what was it, 23 points to 13? It shows still, it crystallizes the gap between the four what we call weaker counties in Cork and Kerry.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer to it is, whilst we're wedded to the provincial system, and I'm not advocating the dismantling of the provincial system, because like you have the Munster Hurling Championship, like, which is absolutely sacrosanct. It's special, and there's people in the northern half of the country would claim that the Ulster Football Championship is what is sacrosanct, but that's another day. But I don't know what the answer is, Tom. It's been reflected down along the grades. We've seen it in the under 20. We've seen it in we haven't seen it in the minor yet for this year. Now, with the exception of Tipperary making an odd burst at minor and under 20 level and 21 level, it's just the old firm. And that was borne out in the Gaelic grounds last Saturday evening, unfortunately, from a Limerick point of view. And Limerick came in with a certain amount of confidence, having won the league. But Cork, after a poor start, Tom, to the league, they started well. They beat Westmeath, but Cork got a desperate hammering from Roscommon in round 5. On their own patch, but they bounced back, and Cork seemed to be being the wake-up call that Cork wanted, because they had good wins over Louth and Cavan coming into it. But having said that, you could say it was probably a level playing field as far as momentum was concerned, in that we had won silverware in Croke Park a week before it. But maybe the turnaround, the quick turnaround, and 4 weeks in a row explains some of it. It goes somewhere towards explaining it. Whilst Cork had an opportunity to be fresh, they had a couple of weeks. I think it was 2 weeks they had. So overall, it was disappointing. And but Tom, there's no sugarcoating it. There is a gap between the 4 counties and the big 2.
There is, and I think even we'll probably see when the teams line out, there's probably a bigger gap between Cork and Kerry than some may expect as well. 11 points the margin in this game. There's 11 points between Limerick and Cork last year as well. So it's not cutting any tighter. And I think the four games in 4 weeks didn't help Limerick at all. I mean, Tony McCarthy was injured, Fiacre Cotter was injured, a couple of other players had to be, I suppose.
You're having the hope of avoiding that if you're 4 games in a row, Tom.
Changes had to be made. Yeah,
it's just par for the course. And now the only thing I would say about it is Tom, that Limerick can face the Tailteann Cup with a certain amount of confidence. Limerick did reasonably well in the Tailteann Cup over the last 2 years, Tom, and they were coming from a base of having lost all their league games. Like they got to the full quarter final the year before last, when they were beaten by Laois, and the same last year when they were beaten by Sligo.
Yeah,
and they got that far. They were the first wins they got in each of the years. So they're going to be going into the Tailteann Cup this time. I suppose you could still say it was a creditable, in the circumstances, it was a creditable performance against Cork. If you factor in the sending off, and if you factor in the 4 weeks in a row, and of course you're going in with silverware. Yeah. And hopefully from Jimmy Lee's perspective, the like of Tony McCarthy and Fiacre Cotter and those that are injured, and there are a number of knocks, of course, after the Cork game, that they will all have cleared up. and that he will have a full hand to play when we see who we're drawn with and against, and what the groupings and what the pairings will throw up for Limerick.
Yeah, that's true. And I suppose Limerick in the Celtic Cup, I think their record in it has been decent. Yeah, they won 2 games the first year, last 2. Last year they won 3 and last 2 as well. They lost to Down in the opener and they lost to Sligo in that quarter final. So 5 wins out of 9.
First year, Tom, they did everything but beat Laois.
Oh, I tell you, Laois conceded no goals to Limerick that day from what I think it was 0 anyway, and they conceded 7 the following week.
They did, and
Limerick should have scored.
Created the same number of chances as Down did, They
did, yeah. Look, I think Limerick are better prepared. The confidence has to be high heading into the Celtic Cup, and the draw, I don't think the draw will strike any fear into them. They'll probably have they will have a Division 3 team, as it were, thereabouts. Might have a Division 2 team in their group. Probably have a Division 4 team and then another, depending on what way the draw goes. They're not seeded, of course. 1 home, 1 away, and 1 neutral. So, there's nothing to fear here in this competition, I don't think.
No, Tom. The Celtic Cup now is you have to play what's put in front of you.
Yeah.
You don't have any say in it, and it's the last chance. All right. You have a bit of leeway in the group stages in that you can lose a game and still qualify in advance to the preliminary quarterfinals and all that sort of thing. But you're in the last chance saloon there when we're into the Tarleton Cup and it gets underway. And I think it's been restructured next year, actually, both itself and the Sam Maguire.
It is.
Look, that's for another year. The structure and the format for this year is as for the last couple of years.
Yeah. So there'll be 17 teams. There's 16 in the group, and then New York gets jetted into the prelim quarterfinals. So look, there's a chance for Limerick to go on a bit of a run, and I think it's a recharge is welcomed. And I got the sense, while of course Limerick never liked losing by double digits to anyone, kind of got the sense that they were okay with it in terms of they kind of, okay, we lost, but let's regroup now and go to Talton. It wasn't a detrimental loss that, in other years, if they got a bit of a hiding against a Cork or a Kerry, could derail the team. But no sense at all of that. I think they know that they achieved their ultimate goal already in terms of getting promotion, and now it's a case of can they take on phase 2, which is the Talton Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. They have it parked now, Tom, because when you look at the year to date, the positives have so far outstripped the negatives. They can be but confident going in, and they hopefully they'll be in a similar position to those that will be in their group, in that they'll have 3 to 4 weeks, I'd say, to prepare for it. 5 weeks, actually. I think Jimmy was saying the 12th. I think
it was. Yeah. Limerick, basically from the finish of the Cork game, they'll have 5 weeks, or even 5 weeks in a day. Yeah. 5 weeks in a day, even. Yeah. No, I think, look, they'll give it a fair go. Like, their record so far this year is, if you look at it, 5 wins, 2 draws, and 2 defeats, and they're very competitive. Even in this game, up until the red card, Limerick were looking, like they were playing with a purpose, and they were causing Cork problems even against a very strong wind. And look, it unravelled quite quickly, but they did reset in the second half, and just kind of matched Cork in the second half, which is fair enough. And Limerick only scored 3 times in the second half, but the three of them were 2-pointers. So it's part of their game that maybe I hadn't seen much of so far. So they're
Well, actually, we were wondering about it. We stopped short of being critical because we said to something that would come,
Yeah. And they found James Naughton
They found that all these things take time to adapt, like the rules and like kicking 2-pointers from outside the arc and all that sort of thing. It all takes time, And certainly as you go further up the league in Division 1 and Division 2, you would expect people to adapt to it much quicker than down in the lower divisions, and that's no disrespect to the lower divisions. But Limerick seem to be mastering it gradually, slowly but surely.
Yeah, and I always point out the point, even they got 3 goals in the league final. If you look at the 7 rounds of league games, Limerick were 5th, I think, for goals scored, and they were 5th last, as it were, out of the 32 counties. This is now, they were in the bottom 5 then for 2-pointers. So the trade-off there was Limerick were creating and scoring goals and maybe not getting the 2-pointers. So they'll have to find a balance maybe as the year goes on. And as you say, it's a learning curve for everyone, and maybe the coaches will find a formula there that will work as the year goes on. So look, a lot to be positive about. Yeah, Cork marching on to play Kerry. Not something I would have liked to see Limerick stepping into at this point in their journey. But I think reset, recharge, get the injuries right, and hopefully a favourable enough Tailteann Cup draw for Jimmy Lee and co. So look, that's going to be I think it's the second week of May. It will be the opening round of that, so it will bring you up to speed when the draw is done and the pairings are announced. So that's the 11-point loss to Cork in the Munster Championship quarter final. Matt, the minor footballers were in action last Monday evening in Culty against Clare, and unfortunately I think they were competitive for a large spell of this one, but the home side ran out comfortable enough winners in the end, I think it's fair to say, Matt. And I suppose we're scratching our heads, we're searching around for a win at minor level in I suppose both codes really, but particularly in football in recent years it hasn't been too favourable at times, has it?
No, since we won the Darcy Cup, the Dal Darcy Cup 3 years ago, John Ryan's team, that year, you will recall, they lost pretty poorly to Tipperary in the first round that year, and subsequently went down to Clare and beat Clare, and I think it was in Milltown Malbed, beat Waterford, and then came back and beat Tipperary in the Dal Darcy Cup final, which was a fantastic turnaround. We're looking for something similar this time, Tom. Like we've lost to Clare, now we've Tipperary in McNeville Park on Monday evening. I think it is at 7:00. Is it?
That's correct. Yeah, Monday evening. Yeah, in round 2. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you'd be hoping to get back to winning ways. Tipperary had a good win over Waterford in the first round. Tipperary seemed to be pretty formidable at minor in recent years, and like you're right, Tom. Our wins at minor level have been, I won't say they're like hen's teeth, but they have been scarce.
Yeah.
In minor football, and but again, Tom, I talk about the gap, and I think the gap was graphically shown, Tom. I think in the under-20, where we had a decent competitive under-20 competition between the 4 counties. Now Tipperary emerged with 3 wins. Limerick were poor against Tipperary. They beat Waterford. They did everything but beat Clare, which would suggest that they did. But lo and behold, when the 2 teams went forward they suffered very, very heavy defeats to Cork and Kerry.
Yeah.
And Cork have since suffered a very heavy defeat to Kerry.
Mm.
So, like, it would appear that there are 3 tiers there, Tom. There are Kerry up here, Cork here, and the rest down here, so...
Yeah, and an occasional shot across the bow from Clare and Tipperary in recent years at underage. Like, Limerick haven't, let's be fair, Limerick haven't really landed too many blows at the upper areas. With Clare and Tipperary have sporadically, come with good, big performances and been maybe a touch unlucky at times. But even this year so far, it's not been great reading for those 4 counties when they've, if and when they've come up against the bigger boys.
No, and I'd be afraid that same thing would be replicated now when it comes to the minor.
Yeah.
But it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's great that we have phase 1 for the 4 counties.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, well, go back to the old system, Matt. The old system was like Limerick might draw Kerry in the quarter final, might score a handful of times, get well beaten, and the year could be over. Or
at least now you have there's a bit of a decent structure there to give a series of games, and you go on to the All Ireland series as well. Like we will say, if you take the under-20 and Limerick winning the John Kearns Cup silverware, and then you go on to an All-Ireland semi-final, and I think at minor level as well, you go on to the All-Ireland Minor C Championship, which...
Yeah, C or B, depending on where you land in the province, yeah.
It was a game that we won last year in the minor. We beat Fermanagh, but came up against Down. How Down ended up in the C Championship now, you need to scratch your head to find that one out, but, maybe the system needs a bit of tweaking, but because Down would be... There'd be a force in Ulster minor football. There wouldn't be a major force.
No, but maybe in a particular year they didn't get the results, and that was it. They finished.
Perhaps. We just see the last year was the first year of it. Bound to have teething problems, but it would be interesting to see who emerges this year. Like Westmeath beat us in the semi-final of the All Ireland Under 20B Championship, and it was a good competitive game, and. But we fell a bit short, and Westmeath are a nuisance to us, Tom, at senior football. But thankfully, we beat them 25 years ago in the All Ireland semi-final.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they don't seem to have forgiveness since. And they grabbed I think was it in 2003. They grabbed the Division 2 title from us in injury time, and
Yes.
we have a very poor record against them at senior, and lo and behold, they're down with us again in Division 3 next year. But look, that's for another day. But Tom, I'm going on a rant. We'll come back to the minor. We'll come back to the minor football championship.
Yeah.
Look,
Just look at
let's hope that we get a decent performance and hopefully a win on Monday evening.
Yeah, just Matt, I know we didn't have the panel to hand last week. I just couldn't. I was scrambling around for just this is the team that lined up, or it's the one that was published anyway, that line up against Clare. Good spread of clubs there. I think you mentioned to me Leon Curtin, who's listed at number 15 there for anyone watching, was the only player involved last year. So I suppose it's a group maybe lacking in experience, and maybe the first day out, a lot of nerves, and we'd hope then that on home soil in the familiar surrounds in McNeville next Monday, they can rise again and they can find a new gear or two, that maybe they didn't show against Clare last Monday.
And Murphy's Law, Leon Curtin got injured early on and had to go off.
All right, so completely lacking experience.
From what I'm hearing and from what I'm reading, we had very good performances from Ryan Sheehan and Jamie Crowley, who were forming the spine of the attack. But we need to get this thing all round, all around the pitch, and I don't know, but it's going to be difficult against Tipperary, Tom. That's make no mistake about that. Tipperary are going to be strong at this level, and they haven't very few. I think they've only 2 or 3 of last year's team.
Right. Well, Tipperary, just to bring people up to speed, also on Monday night hosted Waterford in Fethard, and they were 116-1-6 winners. So they were 10-point winners. Limerick lost by 8 to Clare. I suppose it's just a case for the management team. Can they pick them up, and can they come up with a bit of a game plan that, sometimes if you improve 2 or 3 things in a football game, it can lead to greater attacking threat and greater defensive now. So
John Ryan did it.
He did, yeah. Even though I was at that Clare game we talked about.
John O'Grady did it this year.
Yeah.
Because Waterford went to Milltown Malbay and they beat Clare, and we were well beaten by Tipperary, and he went to Dungarvan and beat Waterford.
Yes, yeah, very fair point. Yeah. So hopefully, Mike. Who's manager? Sorry, Mike Linehan.
Micheál Linehan, yeah.
Micheál Linehan, sorry, yeah. His name's just escaped me there for a sec. Yeah, hopefully the Mount Collins men can rise them for next week. Look, but we know there is a championship there in terms of the All Ireland as a C or B, depending on where they finish up in Munster.
You have to aspire.
Absolutely,
I was talking to one of the 20 selectors immediately after the game, after the winning the John Kearns Cup in Mallow. Whilst he was delighted to get silverware, he was lamenting the fact that they didn't get a shot to play Kerry and Cork.
Yeah, they didn't finish in the top 2, basically, yeah.
He felt it would be due reward for the effort that they had put in. And he also felt that it would be an opportunity to benchmark themselves and to get the opportunity to play at a higher level would be beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, because some of those lads had the experience already of winning that competition, and nice to win it again. But they would have felt maybe the next step was to, as you say, benchmark against Cork and Kerry and have those the other 3 games in Munster. Okay, look, that's the minor footballers. Just to mention that, I suppose Monday coming, they're at home to Tipperary, then they have 2 weeks off, and they're home again to Waterford. So thankfully, this time it seems the 2 home games have fallen our way.
Falling our way, and you could possibly say that it's in their own hands with home advantage.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah, it's. There's nothing impossible really here now. They win the 2 games, they'll be in the top.
The 2 games, and you have a serious chance of being in the Dáil Darcy Cup final. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, that's the minor football. Matt, I think we'll stay on minor or under 17 as it is at intercounty level now. We were in Dungarvan last Friday evening, a smashing evening for to be watching again, but unfortunately, despite a very strong opening 30 minutes from Donal O'Grady's youngsters, they came a little bit unstuck in the second half, and I think it was Cormac Spain, the Waterford man, who was inspirational in leading Waterford to the victory here. So unfortunately for Limerick, 2 decent enough performances in some parts, but unfortunately no points to show for it after 2 rounds of the minor hurling championship.
Well, we spoke with Donald after, Tom.
Yeah.
And he more or less said, which is absolutely, totally correct, that in the first half, he got everything that he wanted.
Yeah.
In fairness, he did. They were playing against a strong breeze. They looked so comfortable. They looked so organised at the back, and we couldn't possibly. And it was a stiffish breeze now, Tom. And
straight down the pitch, really.
Straight down the pitch. There was no way we could have imagined the turnaround in the second half. I'm slow to say it was a collapse, but Limerick, they never really got going. Now, Donald had a point, but when he pinpointed that we conceded 17 frees in the second half to Waterford's 4.
Yeah. And I think the word he used, platform, I think he said it gave them the platform.
Yeah, that's what he said, that we were giving them 17 platforms. And Spain put over most of them.
He did. And from 2 more, he set up other points.
He did.
He passed instead of shooting. I think he missed a free as well. You can't give a sharpshooter like that the platform, to use that word again, to go and win a game from you, And I don't think Donald was being critical of the referee, but I think it was more like the lads, they need to sharpen up in their tackling. They're trying to how they turn the ball over and even minding the ball. Like Limerick struggled to win puckouts in the second half. They were either overhit or they were underhit or they were misguided or they were misread or whatever the word is. They just couldn't get possession, and Limerick scored 6 points in the second half, and that was probably about right. It's not like they missed 15 or 20 chances. They didn't have the chances to miss. In fairness, the Waterford goalkeeper pulled off a great save, which could have set up a grandstand finish, but it probably would have flattered Limerick maybe at that point if they had found the goal. I can't remember who had the shot off the top of my head. It was.
But Tom, the Limerick team is pretty even, but unlike the other 4 counties, we're really lacking a marquee player. Which the other counties have. You take John Barry in Waterford. In Clare, Cormac Spain in Waterford, Cormac Dean in Cork, Ewan Murray in Tipperary. We and young Rossiter in Tipperary. We've no standout player. That remember when Adam English was minor.
Yes, yeah.
Remember when Cathal O'Neill was minor.
Yeah, go back to Cian Lynch. Yeah,
Cian Lynch. We've no go-to players, which I don't know. Look, Donald can only play the hand he's given.
Yeah,
and the players that are available to him. I thought the second half was fierce disappointing, Tom. I came away despondent after it, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you were listening to me in the car coming back,
Oh, I'd be well blocked out at that stage. Yeah. I suppose bright sparks. Look, we're kind of sounded a bit negative there. I thought Rory Hanley in the first half quite good. Killian Begley was a good target man. I thought Shane Waters, I think was the youngest player on the starting team, showed very well. At times in the first half, some of the lads defended quite well. Maybe Michael Hanley, the other of the Hanley twins, did quite well. At times, I suppose it was a case of players played well for minutes, but not for longer spells. The Waterford lads
that fed into the team. But the team played very composed, played very tight in the first half.
They did. Yeah, a lot of hard work, a lot of turnovers. I know you put it to Donald after. Maybe they expended a lot of energy, but
I put that point to Donald after. Had they emptied the tank or nearly emptied the tank after the first half, and it was one of those sultry evenings as well.
It was. Yeah. Look, it's disappointing. I suppose the format of this championship is 4 teams progress out of the 5 in terms of the team in 4th will go to the All Ireland series in the kind of backdoor, kind of in the older style. It is, I think it's the top 2, isn't it, are in the Munster final, or am I slightly wrong with that? Sorry.
We're going to talk about it in the press box on Friday evening in
Sorry, I had it figured out, and I'm after
Wednesday
forgetting.
evening. We were a couple of us confused about it.
Sorry, I have it here.
Out of my life, but
I believe fourth and third go into the All Ireland kind of back door, and I think the top two are straight into the final. I'm pretty certain any of the top two are straight into the final. So that's kind of out of Limerick's reach, you'd feel at this point, with Waterford on 4 points, Cork on 1 win from 1 as well, and Clare have a win. So Limerick would work to do.
But to figure in the All Ireland series, Tom, we need to beat Tipperary and Clare.
Yeah. Well, if it is following the same format as last year, a win over Tipperary, it's from what I can gather, would more or less do that, because that's the next day out. The head. If you recall, last year Limerick went into round 3 without a win. Waterford went in without a win, and Waterford won in the Gaelic rounds, and that gazumped Limerick out of the championship, because the head-to-head rule is there first of all. So the game against Tipperary at Semple Stadium in I'm just looking at the date of it now. It is the 18th, which is for this night week Friday.
It's a week Friday, I think.
Yeah. So it's on. Yeah, it's Good Friday, the 18th. Yeah. So Limerick will be hoping Good Friday will be a great Friday in terms of a win there against Tipperary, who are also, I might add, 0 from 2 as well. So a win there for Limerick will knock Tipperary out of the championship anyway, and put Limerick in a decent position heading into the Clare game to make inroads. So it can change very quickly, I suppose.
It can change, yeah. We need to decamp to meet Tipperary for Easter anyway. Which, the minors on Good Friday and the seniors on Sunday.
And we've already been there with the 20s. So look, that's the minors. Next up is the 18th away to Tipperary, and then they conclude with a home tie against Clare on the 25th. So 2 games in the space of a week for Donal O'Grady and co. I mentioned 20s there, Matt. I didn't make the trip on Wednesday evening. You did make the trip.
I did.
I was scratching my head. I was watching this game at TG Card, Limerick under 20s drawing with Waterford. I was scratching my head thinking, is that a good result or a bad result? And then I kind of came to the simple conclusion: anytime you're probably not defeated in the Munster Championship, in any of the Munster Hurling Championships, it's probably not a bad day at the office, particularly when you've been 7 points down, particularly when you haven't played near your capability. Maybe a draw is something you grab onto, and you take the positives from. What do you think?
Yeah, one of the connections to the team said something similar to me. He said that we were desperate bad, but we weren't beaten,
Yeah.
And that's about it. The first half, Tom, was appalling. Absolutely appalling. Limerick got nothing right. Nothing went for them. Nothing ran for them. And it seemed to be carrying over into the second half until it all changed. It all changed at midway through the half. Mark O'Brien came in, and he lobbed a free. Now, it was a dangerous free. It was
from his own half, wasn't it? He was probably around his own half.
It was
45, 65 area.
It was a horrible dropping ball for a defence.
Yeah.
And it ended up in the net. And it ignited Limerick immediately. Practically instantly. We had a totally different Limerick side, because they recaptured most of the form, the efficiency, the composure that they had shown against Tipperary in the first round. And you'd be saying to yourself, you'd be scratching yourself, and you'd say, if they had only done it for an hour, if they'd only done it for 3/4 of an hour, they'd have been out the gate with the 2 points.
Yeah.
But look, at the end, no, Limerick were very, very unlucky, Tom, not to win it. They had 4 opportunities in the finish.
Yeah,
Limerick ended the game with 15 wides. And Limerick also ended the game with a disturbing free count. So, speaking to Evan Loftus after, at least he knows what the correctables are.
Yeah.
You need to get your shooting on cue, and you need to get your discipline on cue. And I've no doubt he will be working on those 2 aspects of his game of the game. But in the first 40 minutes, Tom, you could find no positives. 7 points down, only despair. That's all. Dara Langan was absolutely outstanding throughout.
Yeah.
I thought Sean Casey at fullback, particularly in the second half, really, really shut up shop, especially when Limerick were
he made an incredible block, Matt, at the end. I know I was watching TV, Waterford looked like they kind of looked like they were hunting a goal when maybe a point.
Yeah.
If I was Waterford, I'd be thinking, will you flick the ball over the bar, lads?
Absolutely.
But he just made a great intervention. Yeah, great fullback.
He removed the option for him.
Yeah.
He simplified it by blocking it out,
Yeah, enough.
But, the players will know themselves, Tom, that some of them didn't come up to the level that they had shown against Tipperary. Now, looking for an explanation, I don't know. I think, Evan Loftus was, I suppose, and his management team were as much lost as we all were.
Yeah.
As to what went wrong. But as I said, that there are very clearly defined correctables there, which and they'll have to work on their shooting, they'll have to work on their discipline, and you might say to yourself, what team doesn't have to do that? But Limerick more so, because I'm just looking at the statistics here: 5 wides in the first half, 10 in the second half.
Yeah.
Now, Waterford did have 10 wides.
Right. Sometimes the wide statistic can be a simple one, but I think like Limerick finished the game very strongly, but
very strong there. As you saw, there was 4 opportunities, Tom.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is they finished it so strongly that they actually wasted chances to win the game. But kind of looking at it, they had so many chances. Even in stoppage time, I think they had 3 or 4 chances to inch ahead. And you feel if you inch ahead there, well, okay, there's always the worry that they'll concede a free and Waterford will level it again. But it felt like if Limerick got their nose ahead, even if it was on 55 minutes or 58 minutes or 63 minutes, they wouldn't be stopped because they had such momentum.
Yeah, but Waterford were running at the Limerick defence in the first half, particularly young Toomey and young Hartley, Fergal Hartley's son, and they're in the half-forward line. They cause us an awful lot of problems. I think they got 9 points between them, but Mark Hartley's were mainly from frees, but they were drawing fouls.
Yeah.
And they were running against us at pace, and they caused us an awful lot of trouble. And Jack Toomey was switching wings, and and Waterford got a few lucky points now, Tom. There was a few shots now that you would have said were Hail Mary shots. And the next thing, there was a white flag going up to him. But when you're in a hole and digging, you think everything is going against you, but it's a wake-up call for Limerick, Tom. A wake-up call. They showed very, very well against Tipperary. They have now shown very, very poorly against Waterford. They have 3 points on the road out of 4. They have 2 games at home. Their destiny is very, very definitely in their own hands.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's the top 3. That's the target. You got to finish in 3rd, 2nd, or 1st out of the 5. So they're well placed. Waterford have 1 point from 2 starts. Cork have 1 point from 2 starts. And Tipperary have 1 win. So obviously 2 points from their 2 games, and it's Clare and Limerick leading the way with 3 points each. So nobody has been flawless. Obviously Limerick are joint top.
Nobody has broken from the pack, and you would have to think, Tom, if we were to crystal ball, look into if we were to beat Cork, it would go a long way towards securing. Well, it would secure it because at worst, then we'd have the head-to-head on Waterford, and Cork couldn't catch us because they would be down 5 points out of 6.
Yeah, no, that's it. It is going to be very tight. There will be another twist or two in it. I think the fact Limerick do have 2 home games to come, for what that is worth at under 20 level, I'm not overly sure, but it has to be worth something at any level, really. And at both those games
just on an aside there, I was just wondering, coming home in the car the other night, was there extra pressure on Limerick because of the performance against Tipperary?
Well, I was going to say we've seen this before in all codes at all levels, where a team goes out one day and gets an unexpected result. Now, maybe themselves might say, well, we thought we'd beat Tipperary, but the general narrative was it's a very good Tipperary under-20s team. Limerick probably not as strong. They got a result, and at the end of the day, a lot of these guys are still teenagers. Do they buy into that narrative that we are now at the top, or we're near the top, and just didn't deliver. They had a fortnight's break into the game, so there's no issue there. I wonder, were they mentally at the exact pitch that they needed to? Did they go down to Waterford, and did they go down to Waterford maybe with the same motivation or fear, and I say positive fear, if you know what I mean, as they would have gone into Thurles fortnight earlier? That's the question, and only the players themselves will know that. But look, I think if you play as poorly as Limerick did and get a result, it kind of says, geez lads, what if we actually, what if we galvanise ourselves for a proper performance? What can we achieve? And as we're saying there, there's very little between these teams. I mean, Waterford faded a bit against Clare in their opener. Could have got the result. Clare and Cork could have went either way. Ended up a draw, and obviously Tipperary lost the first day to Limerick, but bounced back against Cork second. So like I think it's a wide open championship. It's just about getting into that top three. A win the next day will put Limerick very, very well placed.
Yeah, very, very, very strong. But
yeah,
just spare a thought for Waterford for a minute. There's absolute despair in the press box at times, Tom, among the Waterford folk. Like, they haven't won an under-21 Munster Championship game since 2022, and that was a third round win over Kerry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's
and like,
winning, isn't it?
And they were sure, pretty sure, as sure as you can be. Although one did express caution, with 7 points up, and everything seemed to be going so well. Limerick simply weren't at the races for the first 40 minutes.
Yeah,
and then it all turned. And it was like one draw in 3 years, like. And not that we have a mighty record ourselves, although we got to the All-Ireland final in 2022.
Yeah.
And we were robbed of Cathal O'Neill, and I won't say any more about that. But
and that point it never was.
the point that never was.
Matt, it sounds like you have sympathy for Waterford here now, and the fact that they haven't won.
I haven't. What I'm trying to do is put myself in their position.
Yes.
But because we find ourselves in football in a similar position.
Absolutely, yeah. Now I know there was the year. Was it 20?
I have an empathy for them, Tom. A certain amount of empathy for them. Like, they're good hurling county. Like, and
yes.
Like, you don't like seeing any county like for us all, Tom. Munster has to be competitive, and like, we spend the first part of the show maybe talking about the lack of competitiveness in the football. The same goes for hurling, and to have Munster properly competitive, you need Waterford competitive as well.
Yeah, no, you do. I was only a little bit in jest, but I think they 2023 Waterford across. I think it's 2023 across hurling and football. I don't think they won a game in the 17s or 20s championships. So, like, there's a fair amount of head scratching, I'm sure, has gone on since, and trying to revive it. But look, they are competitive. It's not like they're not cannon fodder the way some counties are in other provinces for teams. Like, so they're not a million miles off it. And I'd say that win is probably just around the corner. And if they do win a game in this championship, it could actually come into Limerick's favour in terms of, obviously, they're 1 point from 2. So a win for them in one of the games will
do us a favour.
It could do Limerick a favour now. Well, of course, Limerick have to do their own bit of business as well.
Now Waterford have to go to both Cork and Tipperary.
Yeah, they have their 2 home games played. Limerick have their 2 away games played. It's just the way it falls with the 5 teams. So look, that's the 20s back in action in round. I think it's round 4, isn't it? Even though it's Limerick's 3rd game. I lost the fixture there. It's where am I gone here? Come on, Matt, fill in for me here. They're playing on the 23rd. Sorry, Wednesday the 23rd. At McNeville Park.
McNeville Park at the moment. No, that is not written in stone. There's a possibility that game will be moved to the Gaelic grounds.
Yes, yeah.
I couldn't get confirmation of that on Wednesday evening, because I'd say it was a bit premature, but it's certainly in the ether, Tom, that would be moved to the Gaelic grounds.
Yeah, just to allow for, I think, a bit of pitch maintenance in Rathkeale at this time of year after a busy programme of fixtures and training. Okay, Matt, that's the 20s hurling. Just to mention the Celtic Challenge into competitive action. I think you were mentioned to me there before we started. There is the squad has been released. I'm just trying to locate it here now is the next thing. But Yeah, good plethora of talented players from around the county, different clubs featuring, and they're playing a Cork team on Saturday afternoon.
They're playing Cork. They're playing Cork East and City combined.
Right.
They're playing them in Dr. Mannix Park in Charleville tomorrow morning, Saturday morning at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Now Limerick are in it. Three teams in Limerick's group. They're in it with Cork East, City, and Clare. Cork East City have already beaten Clare, so tomorrow is Limerick's first game, and it's players that are of minor. It's under 17. It's players of minor age and players that are very, very, very near county panels. Do you have the panel to put up there, Tom?
I only have it on my phone there, but 1 second now. Yeah, I just see there yeah, it's again a bit like a lot of these teams in Limerick now. There's no one club prominent. I know I see Kilmallock there, Pallasgreen, Monaghay.
Oh, there's a very, very, very good spread. And Tom doesn't know. Owen O'Sullivan is the manager. And himself and his management team have put in an awful lot of work into it, Tom.
Yes.
They've been preparing for tomorrow for the last 3 months, diligently preparing for the last 3 months. And at the back end of last year, we're really digging out to see who would be on their panel and what have you. So, like, they've left no stone unturned going into this competition. And it's an interesting competition, and it's something to put in a back burner by the GA. I think it should get greater prominence, to be honest.
Yeah, I think while Limerick will benefit from it, I think it is aimed a little bit more at some of the other counties that are maybe hurling isn't as prominent. A way for them to test themselves against the more traditional counties. There is an element of that I see even in their promotional piece. Kildare were used as the county and the promotional thing this week. I think Dara Lohan, I could be wrong, I think it's Dara Lohan of Clare, didn't make the minor grade but played in this competition not that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and has obviously gone on to win an All-Ireland with Clare. So I think that's what they're looking at, the GA. They don't want lads to slip through the cracks. They don't want lads to if you don't make their minor panel, it's not the end of the world. There still is a platform for you. And I think the 29 or 30 Limerick lads should be looking at it as an opportunity to wear the green of Limerick and, to try and express themselves and improve their skills. I have it here now, Matt, at last. There's the squad for Saturday's game. As you said, it's 11 a.m. in Dr. Mannix Park in Charleville. So as we mentioned, there are big spread of clubs from around the county. All 4 traditional divisions, if you like, are represented as well. So I suppose they've put the net far and wide to make sure that no aspiring hurler has been omitted.
There's a couple of players there, Tom, that were involved with the SMI now. Liam O'Connor, the centre half back from Monaghay, sticks out immediately. Leon Flynn of Newcastle West as well would be All-Ireland winners, there's a very, very, very good spread of players there, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do, Tom. I think they might do quite well, because I'll tell you about Limerick teams, Tom, and we tend to be critical when they do poorly, but it certainly is not for a lack of effort and a lack of preparation. More so than any other counties, young players, they have a pathway to the county team through the academy. And like you had Aidan O'Connell coming from nowhere this year, so like that into the under 20, and that's an opportunity. People saying that if you're not in the academy, you can't get on the county team. I think that's a bit of it's not correct.
Yeah, it's not. No, look, I think maybe if you haven't gone through probably the Celtic Challenge or the 17s, your chances are certainly lower. I think that is a fair statement, but it doesn't rule you out entirely, No,
you can still force your way in.
Yeah, I think young O'Connell there is a good example. He's not someone that was on my radar now, to be honest with you. I haven't watched minor and schools games and stuff. But then he started the first 220 games, and there's probably more examples. Besides,
he was solid. He was very, very solid when we got going. He's part of the under 20 process when the team is going. But just like everybody else. Robert O'Farrell there got a couple of very good points.
Yeah.
At crucial stages when we were could hardly buy a score. He got 2 or 3. I think he got 3 points altogether. They were very, very well taken points now, in fairness.
Yeah, they were indeed. Okay, so look, that's the Celtic Challenge Saturday morning, 11 a.m. in Charleville, and we'll be keeping an eye on the lads and see how they progress in the competition. As Matt said, the group stage first, and then see if they can make the knockout stage of that competition. Matt, we'll come to Camogie in a second. I suppose I just want to touch briefly. I know Limerick weren't involved, but the National Hurling League final. I thought we'd never see the day where a National Hurling League where there was a lack of tickets, for them. Cork winning it comfortably enough against Tipperary. Is this Cork wave of, should we just hand over the Mackey Cup, give it to them now, maybe drop it to Charleville in the morning, and perhaps give them the All-Ireland? Clare should hand over to Liam McCarthy. Is that the runaway train that Cork are at the moment?
Well, it looks that way anyway, Tom. Sure, I suppose whoever is going to Charleville tomorrow for Dr. Mannix Park may drop it in there and
leave it in the post office or something, and they'll
for collection. No, look, Cork look good, no question about it, Tom. Jokes aside, they look good. They looked good when they got going last year, and Waterford were very quick to point out to us on Wednesday night, how they gave them 2 opportunities to stay alive in the championship last year. First of all, that late score against Tipperary, which Tipperary got a draw in Walsh Park, and then the late 65 in Ennis. Hadn't any of those transpired, Cork would have been gone, But fair play to them, they made the most of the opportunity they got. They got to the All-Ireland final, were unlucky to lose the All-Ireland final. They had a slow enough start to the league, Tom. They didn't root up any trees. They beat Wexford. They drew up with Limerick at home and lost to Tipperary. But as the league went on, Tom, the frontline players, the players that lined out in the All-Ireland final, they were coming back. And I think
they were hitting the ground running, weren't they? Yeah.
They scored 13 goals in the last 3 games, which is a frightening statistic for the rest of the country.
It is, and I actually think the more frightening ones, they're not conceding goals anymore, or it seems like that anyway.
And that was
that was their Achilles heel, Matt, for the last few seasons.
Absolutely, they're not conceding them. So, Cork will start as favourites for the All-Ireland Championship.
They will, yeah, and that's it. No, I don't think that's us playing the poor mouth here. I think the justifiably favourites now.
Absolutely, justifiably favourites.
Limerick haven't shown yet.
Not just because they won the league, Tom, but just the manner in which they won the league and won the league final.
And the manner of those performances last year, to revive themselves in the championship and then to go on. Okay, they weren't spectacular in the quarter-final win over Dublin, but very good against Limerick in that semi-final, and as you say, within a very, very small margin of lifting the ultimate prize at the end of it. So their form is good, their players are good, they have plenty of options. They kind of swatted Tipperary aside in a burst. They didn't need to play for 70 minutes, 7 or 8 minute burst, and the game was put to bed nearly.
They really needed silverware to embellish the progress that they have made, but Pat Ryan was not satisfied at all with the second half.
I know. Look, that's managers for you.
If you want to get a full 70 minutes of what we saw in the first half.
Yeah, hard to do. But if they could, oh my God, you'd be reaching for record books. I'd say to put up an almighty total. But just as general, Matt, the league finals, I think it's great for the GAA. Now I know a lot of the people were Cork supporters, and there's a bit of a kind of feel good factor around their hurling team, but very good for the GAA that the league final got such interest.
No, absolutely.
I know people from Waterford and Offaly, as the curtain raiser, kind of felt a bit kind of ignored almost. They couldn't get their hands on tickets, a lot of them, and some of them did and some of them didn't. But as a general, to have the league final sell out a week in advance or a week more, maybe 10 days in advance, it's it augurs well for the summer ahead. And I think there's already reports that the Munster Championship games will
sold out.
Yeah, a lot of them sold out, and they'll surpass the last year or two's games as well. So it's it augurs well for a hot and heavy summer of action.
Well, it augurs well for hurling. It augurs well for the game and the attractiveness of the game. But a lot of it is the attractiveness of the Munster Championship, Tom.
It is. Yeah. I know.
You wonder how many games in Leinster are sold out.
Oh, I would say I could count them on one hand. It'd actually be zero, I'd imagine. Now, Galway and Kilkenny will attract the crowd, but other than that, I'm not sure how many would. And maybe Offaly supporters will flock to their home games. But let's see how it plays out. Yeah. So look, we'll be coming to the Munster Championship with a detailed preview next week. As I said, exciting times ahead. I'm sure Limerick quietly going about their business at the moment, and will be, I'm sure, sharpening themselves for Easter Sunday against Tipperary. Okay, Matt, I mentioned it there, Camogie, a big weekend for the Limerick minor Camogie side there in action in Glanton, Temple Glanton on Sunday, isn't it? Yeah, against Kilkenny. Saturday. My days mixed up. 2 p.m. against the Cats, yeah.
Which is tomorrow now. It's a big day for them, and they've done very well. Just to give a bit of background to it, Tom, Limerick won the All-Ireland Minor A Championship in 2014. It was the first and only time that the county has won it. The competition has been in existence for about 20 years, I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's usually the big three. Tipperary are the current champions, but it's usually Cork, Kilkenny, Galway, Tipperary would be. But we gate crashed that in 2014, and we look to have gate crashed the top four this year. After a very impressive group stage, we beat Galway in the first round in Temple Glanton. We beat Wexford in round 2 in McNeville Park, and then we were put to the pen of our collar to beat Clare in the final round in Father McNamara Park. But I don't think Dermot Ryan and his management team will be too worried about that. That they had qualified for at least the knockout stages by the time before they went to Ennis.
Yeah, well, I think that the group one, Matt. No matter
what,
they
actually had the group one, and so like that, and he tweaked his team around a small bit, and they just got the job done down in Ennis. But had they lost, they'd still be in the semi-final, and they'd still have a home venue, and. They face a Kilkenny team. Now, one thing about Kilkenny is that Kilkenny beat Dublin, Tom. They drew with Cork and Tipperary in the group stages.
Right.
Now, Cork and Limerick met in the Munster final. There was only 2 points between them. Cork won it in Fethard. But what I think, what would alarm me slightly was the manner in which Kilkenny, of course, only finished third. So they had to go the quarter-final route.
Yeah.
And that pitted them against Galway, who they hammered. They beat them by something like 16 points, I think, Tom. Ran up a big score, something like 6-17 to 2-12. Now, Limerick were put to the pin of their collar to beat Galway. And it was a great scalp to get because we beat Galway, of course, as you know, in the All-Ireland Under-16A final last year. Limerick and Kilkenny met in the All-Ireland Under-16A semi-final in Mallow last year. And as I've said before, Limerick went into that game as rank outsiders and they won by a point. Went on and won the All-Ireland final. So they'll be hoping to repeat now. It's a very good Limerick team, Tom. It's drawn from the nucleus of the team is the players that won back-to-back Munster Under-16A championships for the first time in 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, to pick of the two of them, really, yeah.
We won the Munster Under-16A championship for the first time in 2023. We retained it in 2024, went on and won the All-Ireland. So they provide the nucleus of the team, minus Orna Barrett, of course.
Yeah. Long-term injury, unfortunately.
A star player who's unfortunately picked up an injury and has missed the entire campaign. So that will tell you that we have a decent Limerick team. So I'm certainly looking forward to the game tomorrow, Tom. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm expecting a good performance. I'm slightly worried by the type of performance that Kilkenny put on against Galway.
Yeah, and I think Kilkenny in their opener against Dublin put up a big total as well, so they know where...
I'd be disingenuous to say that I wasn't, but I think Limerick, there's great resilience in the Limerick team. and there is great. Dermot Ryan has great options from the bench. Right?
Yeah, that could be key, couldn't it? Yeah.
He brought on Grace Hegarty, brought on Rachel O'Grady, brought on Maya Smith and Avian O'Connor, all impact players. Now, Avian O'Connor has picked up a knock, I understand, and might be in a race against time to be fit for
tomorrow afternoon. Yeah,
for tomorrow, and she certainly will be. She will reduce Dermot Ryan's options from the bench.
Yeah,
but I think Limerick have a good side, and I'm pretty confident that they'll do pretty well, Tom. But as I say, it would be wrong of me if I didn't say that I'm worried about the manner in which Kilkenny dismissed Galway.
Yeah, and I suppose sometimes we've seen it in hurling and Camogie before, having that extra game in terms of a knockout quarter final. It sometimes can do no harm. I suppose we can be looking back in hindsight, but it when you win a game like that, putting up a big total, it's probably
to me it was a classic example of Kilkenny just pressing the right buttons at the right time.
Yeah. Knockout hurling, knockout Camogie, let's go, yeah. So that's 2 p.m. Temple Glanton tomorrow, the Minor A All-Ireland Championship semi-final.
And I will appeal to anybody that's listening, turn out and support the girls.
Yeah, there isn't an awful lot else on, so I mean, why not?
Temple Glanton is a lovely, lovely, lovely venue. I've been there before, and it's how appropriate that they get an All-Ireland semi-final. I'm absolutely delighted for them. They deserve it.
Yeah,
with the amount of work that they have done down there and the facilities that they have there, and all we need now is big support for that. When they played Galway, there was a big crowd there, and let's hope we'll fill Temple Glanton to the rafters tomorrow and cheer on the girls.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 p.m. start for anyone looking to make the trip, and the other semi-final sees Cork and Tipperary. So as Matt says, Limerick have already upset the big four, and looking to do a little bit more to that against the Cats tomorrow. Okay, Matt, I think that's about our lap this week. Not much on the ladies' football front, so we'll come back to that as they make their way through that Munster B Championship. So I suppose all I can say...
A reminder, Tom, that the curtain raiser to the Limerick Tipperary Munster Senior Hurling Championship match is the Munster Senior Camogie clash of Limerick and Tipperary, and that's on at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, 2 p.m. start. So why not head down to Thurles, beat the traffic a little bit, and trot away in early. I think the girls will need your support, given it's a formidable enough Tipperary team in their way. So I think plenty of green in for that one early would do them no harm at all. So that's on Sunday week, of course, as I said already, Easter Sunday. So we'll look at that game. We'll look at the hurling next week with multiple All-Ireland winner set to join us on Treaty Talk. So Matt, thanks again, as always, for your time. Listeners, thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll chat to you again.